This video is sponsored by Elevate. I get a lot of spam. No, I'm not talking about the meat, I'm talking about emails. See, one of the unexpected perks of being a YouTuber is receiving countless messages from strangers who are trying to grift me. Or, even worse, get me to grift you. Let's make this fun. I'm gonna open up my email and show a few of the most recent messages we've received. All right, so Oscar has an idea. Since my last email, I have had another look at your website and came up with another idea that could snatch the attention of my target audience. Great stuff. They work with a vein finding technology that produces a unique vein finding tool. I don't think I need that tool, but sure. The biohackers, man, they always find us. Peak performance. Topics range from the latest in peptides and nootropics to ancestral health and mindset. This has like big paleo vibes to me, I think. Plenty of ideas of how to boost your book sales and that free Facebook ad for me if I'm interested. Oh, a posture corrector. I mean, I could use a posture corrector, but I'm not gonna make a partnership with one. Looking over our site, saw some areas you could improve. Yeah, there's a lot of things we could improve about our website. Hello 100. I don't know what that is. That seems sketchy. I'm not gonna click that link. A specialized service offering health insights based on your genes. Co-founder of a medicinal mushroom supplement company that does it the right way. You get the picture. What I'm trying to say here is, most of the emails we get are garbage. In general, I just ignore these emails. Sometimes Micah and I laugh about them. Because the reality is that just like you can't magically boost your subscriber numbers by paying a stranger on the internet a bunch of money, you also can't boost your brain power just by popping supplements or strapping on a vibrating electronic bracelet or whatever. And I'm not gonna be any part of that. So when we got an email from this brain training app called Elevate earlier this year, I immediately said to myself, yeah, brain training is bunk. Then why did I agree to work with them? Well, let's talk about it. Brain training. It sounds like a really cool concept. Most often, this term gets thrown around by apps and programs that claim to maintain or even boost your cognitive function over time. They're usually marketed as being the equivalent to exercise for your brain. Just like physical activity can keep your body healthy and strong over your lifetime, brain training is thought to keep you mentally fit and potentially prevent age-related cognitive issues, like dementia. Most of these programs tend to gamify activities that are supposed to support skills like working memory, problem solving, attention, and reasoning. The thought is that if you exercise your brain with these sorts of games, you'll keep your brain active and alert, which will improve your brain's neuroplasticity, which reflects how your brain works when you're young and absorbing everything around you. Even though the brain doesn't really grow that many new neurons during our lifetime, though there is some neurogenesis in the adult brain, particularly in the hippocampus, we are able to keep learning and adapting as our neurons form and strengthen new connections with one another. Our adult brains are surprisingly flexible, so keeping ourselves stimulated with new inputs and activities can support that flexibility way into old age. We can strengthen memories or get better at tasks through practice and repetition. As the old adage goes, cells that fire together wire together. One of the underlying tenets of neuroscience is that the brain learns via repeated firing of the connections between neurons. Activating those neural pathways over and over strengthens those connections, making it easier to activate that pathway in the future and helping solidify it in the brain. This is true for all kinds of learning, from the most basic types of instincts to, we think, higher order stuff like understanding calculus. So, the thought goes that playing little smartphone games that encourage your brain to use skills like working memory and problem solving will translate into being better at those skills in day-to-day life. And it's true that practicing skills makes you better at those skills. Just look at any professional musician, athlete, or esports player. They put in thousands of hours, often repeating the same skills over and over in order to become better at what they do. But the issue with brain training is that while you definitely get better at the tasks you're doing in the apps, It's not actually clear if these apps can do everything they're claiming to do, like improve your memory, or make you smarter, or stave off an aging brain. The early excitement around brain training is likely due to a 2008 study published in the prestigious Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, or PNAS. The study found that training on a complicated task involving auditory and visual stimuli led to a dramatic improvement in fluid intelligence scores compared to participants who had no training between two tests. Fluid intelligence encompasses the kinds of mechanisms that affect your performance on cognitive tasks, things like working memory. This was one of the first times that a study found a link between a specific kind of brain training and improved overall intelligence. Unfortunately, it seems like that study fell prey to some of the same issues Micah discussed in his replication crisis video. That study wasn't very well designed, and no one has been able to replicate the results. A lot of work has been done in the brain training space since then, and most of it has been much less promising. Meta-analyses of the studies available have essentially found that when you play brain training games, you get better at the games themselves and at tasks that are very similar to those games. But it doesn't really seem like that training extends to other arenas, like general intelligence or cognitive abilities. So, what it really comes down to is what kind of brain training are you doing, and what kinds of claims are its creators making? Because some programs seem to be pretty promising, and others really are just games. The controversy on this topic really kicked off in 2014, when a group of over 70 scientists signed a letter that said, in essence, brain training does not protect your brain or improve your cognition as you age. Their argument was that it's unethical for brain training game companies to advertise their programs as scientifically backed and evidence-based because the research is so lacking. As the baby boomer generation ages, we're looking at a world with a lot of older adults who have been looking for ways to improve their quality of life and prevent cognitive decline as they age. The letter signatories argued that these companies are essentially preying on the anxieties of an aging population to make a profit. And it's an oversimplification to argue that playing games can protect your brain long term. And that might not sound like that big of a deal, right? Brain training games probably don't hurt and they might help, so what's the harm? But brain training is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and if these companies are going to claim that they're backed by science, then they really should be telling the truth. The first time I ever wrote about brain training, it was for SciShow, and at the time the consensus was pretty clear.
They don't really work.
But as I've been learning while researching for this video, there's some ongoing controversy in the field. Researchers argue about whether or not you can actually increase your cognitive capacity, if you can expand your working memory storage, for example, or improve your ability to remember names or dates. They also argue about who stands to benefit the most from brain training. For example, would an older person with some degree of cognitive decline benefit more or less from brain training than a spry young college student? The jury is still out, and more research is being done. There's even a group of researchers running a site called Cognitive Training Data that collects evidence supporting the idea that brain training is, in fact, beneficial. This group of scientists hit back at the first letter, arguing that they were actually the ones oversimplifying the science by saying that brain training doesn't work. They pointed out that, yes, brain training games do help you get better at the tasks you train in, and that there is some evidence that the skills practiced in those games can extend to similar or related tasks. But they did acknowledge that there's little evidence that those skills can extend to broader cognitive capabilities. And they argued a big part of the problem is that the research just isn't that good, which honestly isn't that surprising. A lot of psychology research struggles with experiment design and data analysis. You know, the stuff that contributes to that whole replication crisis. So it's not that surprising that different studies would have such dramatically different outcomes. But interestingly, the group behind the second letter did agree on one thing. many of the existing companies were not actually using sound evidence to support their products, and were claiming their games were scientifically proven to improve cognitive abilities without any empirical research to back it up. So rather than writing off brain training completely, the Cognitive Training Data Group proposed changes like increased funding and more programs to better address these big questions. And simultaneously, they suggested better vetting of the brain training programs that are out there in the world. Now, from what I can tell, it seems like the consensus still falls overwhelmingly into the first camp. Brain training is, at best, useful for improving only the specific skills you're practicing through the program. The studies that have found a beneficial overall effect of brain training typically only find a very small effect, like on the order of a couple of IQ points. And we could make a whole video about why IQ isn't a good measure of intelligence anyway. And we probably will. But that's really the big issue with most brain training apps and programs. They claim to benefit your overall cognitive health, but really their effects are limited at best. Brain training, in my eyes, generally falls into the same category as lion's mane supplements and cranial electrotherapy stimulation. It's interesting in theory, but it's really lacking in evidence. But that doesn't mean there isn't anything you can do to protect your brain as you age. It's just that most of the stuff that's good for your brain isn't as simple as playing games on your phone. Honestly, the easiest way to protect your brain as you age is to get about 30 minutes a day of moderate aerobic exercise. If that seems surprising, it really shouldn't be. Your brain depends on your heart, lungs, and circulatory system to keep it supplied with plenty of oxygen and glucose to keep all those neurons firing and functioning properly. So, protecting your brain starts with protecting your heart and circulation. Physical exercise improves your cardiovascular health and leads to increased blood flow throughout the body. It also reduces inflammation, which is associated with all kinds of health issues, including neurological and psychiatric issues such as depression and anxiety. Physical activity improves your focus and problem-solving abilities for a couple of hours after you exercise, and over the long term can reduce the risk of dementia. Maintaining a regular exercise habit is associated with increased gray matter throughout the brain and leads to improved memory, attention, and information processing speed in the long run. In fact, some research has shown that older adults with some cognitive decline can actually slow that decline by adding regular exercise into their routines. You can also protect your brain by eating a healthy diet, specifically one high in leafy greens, lean proteins, and complex carbs, and low in red meats, dairy, sugar, and fats. This type of diet is full of essential nutrients that your brain needs and can help reduce and prevent inflammation. Another easy thing you can do for your brain is get enough sleep. I miss sleep. Sleep is critical for solidifying your memories and helping your brain keep itself clean and organized. One of our very first videos was all about the importance of sleep. Sleep disorders are strongly tied to all kinds of health ailments, including cognitive decline and mental illness. And getting enough sleep is associated with improved mood and attention. Similarly, reducing your stress where possible, like through a job change, can be helpful for your brain. Chronic stress is associated with poor memory and decision-making, and the hormones produced under chronic stress conditions are associated with long-term inflammation, which we know is bad for your brain. Some activities, like exercise and meditation, can help with stress reduction, giving you a real 2-for-1 boost. It's also really clear that strong social networks are an important key to brain health. Connections with other people are literally necessary for our survival. We're a social species, and we need support from other people to feel good and stay healthy. Studies show that people with close social ties have a lower risk of dementia and longer life expectancies. And when you look at senior adults, married people have longer life expectancies than unmarried adults. Finally, even if it's not necessarily clear that brain training as it's currently marketed is effective for improving your cognition or protecting your brain health, it is clear that lifelong learning is good for you. All kinds of activities like reading books, learning a new language, picking up a new hobby are protective for your brain. Humans are built to learn, and we're capable of learning throughout our lifetime. It's good for us. Keeping your mind active can help keep you sharp, maintaining your existing memories, and lets you build your skills as you age. And ultimately, that last point is really why Micah and I agreed to work with Elevate. When we first sat down with our team, I pretty much told them exactly what I'm saying here. I straight up said that I thought brain training is mostly bunk. That might not be the best way to kick off a conversation with a potential sponsor, but it became immediately clear that they were not your typical brain training app when they replied by saying, yeah, we know. See, Elevate doesn't exaggerate the claims of what their app can do. They won't say that it prevents dementia or that it supercharges your brain. Unlike a lot of other brain training programs, Elevate's games focus on practicing specific real-world skills that you're hoping to improve. Within the app, you can find literally dozens of games in a variety of categories, such as writing, speaking, math, and memory. And you can improve the areas that matter the most to you. For example, if you want to be more concise and straightforward, they've got an activity where you cut out unnecessary words from sentences. Or if you want to become a better listener, there's a game that has you take notes while listening to a conversation to help remember what's being said. What I really like about Elevate is that unlike other popular brain training apps, all of the games I've played so far in Elevate actually use words and numbers. So I'm actually working on getting better at calculating tips, for example, which is actually something we know works in brain training. Plus, the app is super slick, so even when I'm practicing vocabulary words or working on my reading comprehension, it still feels like a game. Elevate even puts together a customized daily workout with a set list of games designed to help improve your abilities in a variety of categories. So far, their approach seems to be working. They won Apple's App of the Year award, and their user surveys have shown that most users feel that the app has helped improve their vocabulary, mental math, and reading and writing skills. They even had an independent research group do a study to see whether or not using Elevate could improve skills in different categories, and found that by playing Elevate games for 4 weeks, users improved almost 70% compared to controls. This focus on real-world skills is why we said yes when they asked Micah and I to join the team as their resident neuroscience and psychology experts. We're working with them to create videos to help share fun and useful bits of information about your brain and how to use it to succeed at work, in relationships, and in reaching your personal goals. These aren't videos for our channel, it's just stuff we're developing for their social media channels. So if you want to find them, and us, just search @ElevateApp in Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever is your favorite app of choice. And I really hope that you'll check out the Elevate app too, which you can find in the App Store and the Play Store. If you want to give Elevate a try for yourself, you can play a basic version of the program for free, or you can test out the full app with a 7-day free trial. The full app with all the most fun games and your personalized mental workout is super affordable. And if you head over to elevateapp.com/neurotransmissions, you can get a 30% discount on the full subscription. We've been having a lot of fun working with them so far, and I'm really excited to see what we create next. Personally, my favorite brain-healthy activities are physical exercise and learning new hobbies. In fact, I have so many hobbies that it's hard to find time to do any of them anymore. Do you have any favorite activities or games for keeping your mind sharp? Or maybe a least favorite? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching this episode of Neurotransmissions. Until our next transmission, I'm Allie Astrocyte. Over and out.